Imagine waking up in the dead of night to a pounding at your door, knowing that the man who once called you comrade, your leader, your friend, has now marked you for death. Even Stalin's closest allies weren't safe from his wrath. Hi, history lovers. I'm here to bring you the chilling tale of Stalin's Great Purge, that blood-soaked chapter of 1937, where paranoia devoured the very revolutionaries who built the Soviet Union. We'll focus on the forgotten victims like Nikolai Bukharin, tortured and executed on fabricated charges of treason, their tragic loyalty exposing the horrors of blind devotion. This wasn't just a political cleansing, it was a betrayal that erased heroes and shocked the world. But was it all Stalin's madness, or something more calculated? Stay tuned to uncover the dark truths, and if you haven't already, hit subscribe for more gripping stories from history's shadows. To understand the nightmare of the Great Purge, we must step back into the turbulent world of early Soviet Russia, a land scarred by revolution, civil war, and the iron grip of emerging totalitarianism. It was the 1920s and early 1930s, a time when the Bolsheviks, those fiery idealists who toppled the Tsar in 1917, were consolidating power under Joseph Stalin. Born in 1878 in Georgia as Yosef Jugashvili, Stalin rose from humble origins, a seminary dropout turned revolutionary bank robber, to become Lenin's successor after the leader's death in 1924. But this wasn't a smooth ascent, it was a brutal power struggle. Stalin's inner circle included men like Nikolai Bukharin, born in 1888 to a middle-class family in Moscow. Bukharin was the intellectual darling of the Bolsheviks, a close friend of Lenin who once called him the golden boy of the revolution in a letter from 1922. He edited Pravda, the party newspaper, and championed the new economic policy, blending socialism with market elements to rebuild a war-torn economy. Alongside him were figures like Grigory Zinoviev and Lev Kamenev, old Bolsheviks who had plotted with Lenin in exile, and Alexei Rykov, a pragmatic administrator. These men weren't just colleagues, they were comrades forged in the fires of underground resistance, sharing exile in Siberia and dreams of a worker's paradise. Yet, beneath the surface, Stalin's paranoia festered. The 1930s brought economic hardships, forced collectivization, starved millions in Ukraine during the Holodomor, and political threats loomed. Stalin, ever the manipulator, saw enemies everywhere. As one contemporary observer, the American journalist Louis Fisher, noted in his 1937 reports, Stalin's fear was not of foreign armies, but of the ghosts of his own past allies. This wasn't mere suspicion. It was a calculated mindset rooted in Stalin's experiences during the Civil War, where betrayal meant death. Debunking a common myth early, many think the Purge started solely with Sergei Kirov's assassination in 1934, often rumored to be Stalin's doing. But NKVD records, declassified post-Soviet era, show Kirov's killer acted alone, though Stalin exploited it masterfully. The stage was set for terror, a personality cult elevating Stalin as infallible, secret police, the NKVD under Nikolai Yezhov, and a society primed for denunciations. From Bukharin's early life as a radical student arrested multiple times by the Tsar's police, to his alliance with Stalin against Trotsky in the 1920s, these men believed in the revolution's promise. Little did they know, their loyalty would become their doom. As Bukharin himself wrote in a 1937 letter to Stalin, smuggled out before his arrest, "I am loyal to the party to the end, but I fear the end is coming for us all." Foreshadowing the tragedy, this inner circle's bonds would shatter under Stalin's relentless gaze. Now picture this: Moscow in the winter of 1934, snow blanketing the Kremlin as news spreads like wildfire. Sergei Kirov, the popular Leningrad party boss, gunned down in his office. This wasn't just a murder, it was the spark that ignited Stalin's inferno. Within hours, Stalin decreed emergency laws allowing swift arrests without trial, setting the purge in motion. But let's trace how these forgotten victims rose and fell, their stories a tapestry of ambition, ideology, and ultimate betrayal. Bukharin's rise began in the heady days of 1917. Exiled in New York during World War I, he edited a Russian émigré newspaper alongside Trotsky, debating Marxist theory in dingy cafes. Returning to Russia post-revolution, he became a Central Committee member, his eloquent speeches earning Lenin's praise. By 1924, with Lenin gone, Bukharin allied with Stalin against the left opposition, led by Zinoviev and Kamenev. Ironically, the very men who would later fall with him. As Stalin consolidated power through the 1920s, Bukharin supported moderate policies, advocating for peasant incentives. But by 1928, Stalin shifted gears, launching rapid industrialization and collectivization. Bukharin, seeing the human cost, famines killing millions, opposed it, labeling it military feudal exploitation in private talks. This dissent marked the beginning of the end. Stalin, sensing a threat, began isolating Bukharin. In 1929, he was ousted from the Politburo, stripped of his Pravda editorship. Yet, Bukharin remained loyal, publicly recanting his views in a humiliating 1930 article, "I was wrong, the party line is correct." Why? Blind devotion to the revolution, fearing schism would doom socialism. Meanwhile, Zinoviev and Kamenev, once Stalin's tools against Trotsky, faced similar fates. Exiled in 1927 for their opposition, they too groveled back, only to be targeted again. The Purge escalated in 1935 with show trials. Picture the packed courtroom in Moscow's House of Unions, Zinoviev and Kamenev, gaunt from torture, confessing to absurd plots against Stalin. NKVD transcripts reveal the coercion, sleep deprivation, beatings, threats to families. Kamenev reportedly begged, "I confess to save my wife and children," as noted in declassified files. Executed in August 1936, their deaths opened the floodgates. Stalin's paranoia, fueled by real fears of Nazi invasion and internal unrest, turned inward. Bukharin watched in horror. Demoted to editing Izvestia, he sensed the noose tightening. In 1936, during the trial of his former allies, prosecutors hinted at his involvement. Desperate, Bukharin wrote to Stalin, "Koba," Stalin's nickname, "why do you need my death?" a plea from his final letter, preserved in archives. Arrested in February 1937, he endured months in Lubyanka prison. The key event, the March 1938 Moscow trial, where Bukharin, Rykov, and others faced charges of Trotskyist conspiracy, espionage, even plotting to kill Lenin years earlier. Fabrications all, but the drama unfolded publicly. Bukharin's defense was masterful yet futile. In the courtroom, he admitted counter-revolutionary activity under duress, but dissected the accusations logically. "How could I poison Lenin when I loved him like a father?" Witnesses recounted his composure, but torture had broken him. His wife Anna Larina later described finding him with bruised wrists from interrogations. The trial's impact, it shocked the USSR, erasing the old Bolshevik guard. Over 700,000 executed in 1937 to 38, including military leaders like Tukhachevsky, weakening the Red Army before World War II. Political ambition drove Stalin. Eliminating rivals ensured his cult's dominance. But the human toll, families destroyed, like Bukharin's young son sent to orphanages. As one survivor, Nadezhda Mandelstam, wrote in her memoirs, "The purge didn't just kill bodies, it devoured souls." The climax of this tragedy unfolds in the dim cells of Lubyanka, where the air hung heavy with despair and the echoes of screams. For Bukharin, arrested on February 27, 1937, the end was a slow, agonizing descent into hell. Dragged from a Politburo meeting mid-speech, he was thrown into isolation. NKVD interrogators, under Yezhov's orders, subjected him to relentless torture. Not just physical beatings that left him bloodied and broken, but psychological warfare. They threatened his family, his pregnant wife Anna, and infant son Yuri. As Bukharin later confessed in a smuggled note, they said they'd shoot Anna before my eyes if I didn't sign. The tragedy deepened during his 1938 trial. Pale and trembling, Bukharin stood in the dock, his once brilliant mind fractured. Prosecutors hurled wild accusations, sabotage, espionage for Japan, even attempting to assassinate Lenin in 1918. Bukharin, in a final act of defiance, masked as compliance, admitted guilt broadly but refuted specifics. "I plead guilty to the sum total of crimes," he said, as recorded in trial transcripts, "but not to poisoning wells or plotting with fascists." Witnesses described his voice cracking, eyes hollow. The man who debated Lenin now reduced to a shadow. Why confess? Not cowardice, but a desperate bid to save loved ones. Bukharin's last letter to Stalin, dictated from prison. "Joseph, for God's sake, believe me. I am innocent. Let me die knowing my family is safe." Stalin, unmoved, sealed his fate. Sentenced to death on March 13, 1938, Bukharin was executed by firing squad in the Lubyanka basement. Accounts from guards, leaked post-Stalin, paint a harrowing scene. Bukharin wept, begging for mercy, his screams echoing as the shot rang out. His body, dumped in a mass grave at Komunarka, vanished into anonymity. Similar fates befell others. Rykov, Bukharin's co-defendant, endured mock executions before his real one, collapsing in terror. Zinoviev reportedly cried, "Hear, Israel, the Lord is our God," a Jewish prayer from his heritage, before the bullet. The mystery, was it all Stalin's paranoia or calculated genocide? Evidence from declassified memos shows Stalin personally edited confession scripts, fabricating evidence. No poison. Just fear, though some speculate arsenic hastened deaths in prison. Doctors noted Bukharin's nervous exhaustion, but torture's toll was clear. Broken bones, infected wounds. The emotional impact devastates. These men, loyal to the end, died believing in the revolution they birthed. Bukharin's wife Anna survived the gulag to recount his final words. "Tell our son I love the party more than life." Their deaths weren't swift. They were drawn-out agonies, souls crushed before bodies. As the firing squad's smoke cleared, Stalin's betrayal was complete. Friends devoured by the monster they helped create. The legacy of Stalin's purge lingers like a dark cloud over history, a cautionary tale of how unchecked power corrupts absolutely. It decimated the Soviet elite, executing over 680,000 and imprisoning millions, weakening the USSR on the eve of World War II. Many purged generals could have blunted Hitler's invasion. Politically, it cemented Stalin's cult, but at a cost. The revolution's ideals twisted into tyranny, paving the way for Khrushchev's 1956 denunciation, which exposed the crimes and sparked de-Stalinization. Modern views often romanticize the victims in books like Arthur Koestler's Darkness at Noon, inspired by Bukharin, portraying them as tragic intellectuals. Hollywood, in films like The Death of Stalin, satirizes the absurdity, but gets it wrong by downplaying the ideological loyalty. These weren't mere opportunists. They died for a betrayed dream. In my opinion, the real lesson is the danger of blind devotion. Bukharin's faith in Stalin blinded him to the monster emerging. What do you think? Was it paranoia or pure evil? Comment below. I'd love to hear your take. This legacy reminds us, ambition unchecked devours its own, a lesson echoing through history's thrones. In the end, Stalin's bloody betrayal during the Great Purge stands as a tragic reminder of how paranoia can devour even the most loyal hearts, erasing heroes like Bukharin in a wave of fabricated terror. Their unwavering devotion teaches us the perils of absolute power and unquestioning allegiance, lessons that echo in today's world. Thanks for joining me on this harrowing journey through history's shadows. Keep exploring and questioning the past. If this story chilled you to the bone, hit that like button, subscribe for more dramatic dives into forgotten tragedies, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Share your thoughts in the comments. What shocked you most about the Purge? For deeper insights, check my playlist on Soviet history or support the channel on Patreon, link below, for exclusive scripts and bonus content. Next video, uncover the mysterious fate of the Romanov family. Until then, stay curious and keep learning.